Hello and welcome to Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. That is Public Access TV. My name's Dirk Keller. We are back with Bob Boyd. We are back with Bud Supple. Earl Murphy's here, as always. After all, it is his show. And we've got a very special guest here tonight, Tom Kakert, our good friend from the HawkeyeReport.com Rivals.com website, HawkeyeReport.com, the best Hawkeye information out there on the planet. Tom, welcome back to Sports Opinion.
Yeah,
thanks. Glad to be here.
yeah, good to have you here.
Well, we just concluded, or I should say the Hawkeye football team just concluded their spring practice season, and that ended and culminated on Saturday with a spring practice, no longer a spring game.
Well, it's a spring game. It's a modified spring game. Where they've scoring, explosive plays are scored, explosive defensive plays, sacks are scored. So it was more like an arena ball score than it was. But I don't. To be honest, I don't even remember what the final was. But I know the offense beat the defense.
Well, I know it's the first time I haven't been in a long time. My daughter had a soccer game.
How did you keep score?
It
2
was,
points for this,
yeah.
4 points for this.
Did you
Yeah.
go,
At
Bud?
one point, yeah, for a short time, but we were ahead 21-0 all at once.
we're also
21-18.
behind.
Yeah,
We're also
we were
behind
behind that one
21-18. So.
Well, they
Is that
did.
right?
Because the offense would
Depends
sack
who you're rooting
somebody,
for.
they'd get 4 points.
Yeah, it was
Well, do
all.
they explain that?
Yeah.
Does the announcer explain a unique scoring system?
Yeah, they have a
Okay.
handout for it.
A
and
handout,
everything.
okay.
So, yeah, it makes it a little more entertaining.
Yeah.
Even though the defensive coaches hate it.
I bet.
They don't like it.
They didn't have one like Alabama. And they had 90,000 people at the Alabama.
Didn't Penn State have about that many?
I don't know.
Nebraska, I know, had like 60.
Well, see there, if they get unionized down the line, then the defense can just protest and sit out, right?
Walk off.
Yeah, that's.
We're going to
probably
talk
down
about
the line.
unionization in a little bit, but
No.
we're going to talk about the Hawkeye football team right now. So, obviously, new season about to begin come the new school year. What were your observations at not just the spring game, but you went to a couple of practices?
Yeah, we also got in West Des Moines, so.
Oh, that's right.
Good.
Got to see a full practice and then kind of the modified scrimmage game on Saturday. So I always joke I learned twice as much as I did in the past doing these Des Moines games because I get to see them twice.
Yep.
So I feel twice as smart in what I say. I thought they were pretty impressive. I think maybe the grand takeaway from everything is offensively they're better. You look at what Derek Willies, the redshirt freshman, was doing.
Yes.
He's a
all
wide receiver.
spring, a wide receiver from Rock Island. He was at Burlington High School as a junior.
Oh, that's the kid.
Good size, too.
Yeah, he's 6'4", really athletic kid, track kid. Won the 200-meter hurdles in the state of Illinois. So
It's impressive.
he can really run and he can catch the football, make plays. He's just another weapon that they have now offensively.
And he was redshirted last year,
Yeah,
correct?
he did not play last year. So they've developed him. Dirk Mitchell Jr. is another wide receiver that they like. Andre Harris, another kid who I think raised his stock this spring. So those are three redshirt freshman wide receivers that I think have a chance to contribute this year. And that makes that position even deeper for Iowa, more weapons, more things to choose from for Jake Rudock and company.
We're stocked at running back, big time, maybe more than ever in the history of the program.
Knocking on the wood, okay? We've been there.
Yeah.
Yes, we have, and the angry Let's see, how's it go? The angry running back hating God.
Yeah.
The angry Iowa running back hating God.
Maybe this is our year to keep them all healthy instead of
Yeah.
losing them all.
You know, the running game might have been a little bit disappointing overall this spring. I didn't think they ran the ball real well in the two times that we saw. They just did not get open a lot of holes. But I think that's a function of a couple of things. A lot of the young guys were getting most of the reps. They don't need to run Mark Wiseman. You know what you're getting with him.
Yeah.
He's taken a lot of hits, a lot of pounding the last 2 years.
And he's going to be
And
a
he's-
senior, right?
Yeah, and he seems to, if you've looked at both of his times where he's run the ball during the season a lot, it's that midpoint of the year where after running 25, 30 times a game, the tread kind of gets thin on the tires, and he slows down in that second part of the year. So I think they're going to try and, obviously this spring, not get him hit, and then also this fall, I think you'll see fewer carries for him. You'll see more Jordan Canzeri, more LaShawn Daniels, more Damon Bullock. You could see Barkley Hill look out of the backs. I thought he looked the best in the two practices that we saw.
He was the Cedar Falls High
Yeah,
School
who 2
product.
years ago was on the cusp of being the starting running back when he tore his ACL in one of the final practices
Yeah.
before the season. So
So he's already had his red shirt season.
yeah, so he medically redshirted, and
So
he's.
is he a red shirt sophomore now then?
I think it's a sophomore. Yeah, so he's
Okay.
he's coming back now. He looked good. A couple of redshirt freshmen I thought looked pretty good. Akram Wadley
Oh, yeah.
and Jonathan Parker, both young guys. They give them something a little different, kind of an elusiveness with quickness, and they've both done real well this spring.
Akram Wadley, where is he from?
He's from New Jersey, and he was one of those late finds. His highlight tape was pretty ridiculous, but he was playing against smaller school competition, I think. Maybe that had something to do with his highlight tape, but he's pretty good back, and I think that's maybe one of the things that you take away is that class of recruits from last year that redshirted got some talent. I mean, you look at the offensive line where Sean Welsh is playing first string right now.
Where's he from?
He's from Ohio, and he's in there with the first unit at left guard right next to Brandon Scherf. So they've got him. They had a good another good walk-on that I should mention, offensive lineman who's a redshirt, Boone Myers, who's a backup guard, is making some waves in camp too. And
He's a walk-on.
yeah, walk-on redshirt freshman. He's not starting, but he's
Where'd he come from, Tom?
he's up. It's
Iowa kid?
north. Yeah, he's an Iowa kid, north central Iowa. I think Webster City maybe.
Okay.
He's a really good kid too. So you look at him. Another name that on that offensive line that you guys will be familiar with is as a backup tackle who's done some good things. Cole Croston. You might have heard of his father.
Yeah.
He was a pretty good player, wasn't he?
Yes,
Earl?
he was.
Dave.
Yeah.
You
Dave
remember him?
Croston played for Hayden.
Played for Hayden Fry. He's getting some weight put on him. He came in, he was like 220 when he came to Iowa, but they really like him, and he's continuing to develop. You got 4 starters back basically from that offensive
Yep.
line. So, and you got Brandon Scherf, who's going to be a contender for the Outland Trophy this year, I think.
Tight ends? Still pretty
Group.
stacked.
Yeah, even though you're losing C.J. Fedorowicz, and he's going to hear his name called here in another week or so, they've got a good group. Ray Hamilton had a great play on Saturday where he turned it upfield and just trucked Jordan Lomax at safety, and he took a bad angle and he caught it, and Hamilton went in the end zone, and he's good. I really like Jake Doozy and George Kittle. In terms of speed, they can really.
Is that
Really?
Kittle?
Yeah, he's
Bruce's-
Bruce's
Bruce's son, yeah.
Bruce's son, another legacy kid for the Hawkeyes. So he can really run. So
There was
he's.
a quarterback out of Cedar Falls that they turned into a tight end. Is he in the mix?
You're thinking of Ike Bedker. You know what? He's
Yeah.
another guy in the offensive line now.
Is he?
He moved over to
Oh.
offensive line last year, kind of later in the year.
Okay.
And he was running second team left tackle
wow.
on Saturday. So
Former quarterback.
quarterback, really good basketball player for Cedar Falls.
Like 6'6", 6'7",
6'6".
big kid.
He's a big kid. So,
Sounds like it.
about the only injury of the spring was at tight end where John Wazinski, the kid from Des Moines, who's a redshirt freshman, hurt his knee. And he
What about Perry?
Travis?
Yeah, is he
That's
hurt?
defensive side. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
okay.
he was out for the practice or for the spring game. Just a little nagging injury. He's going to be fine. He went through all the drills.
Okay.
Oh, good. Well, let me ask you this, Tom. Do we have a quarterback controversy?
Kirk's certainly kind of opened the door to it after practice when he talked to us and said he might, it's something that's on the table is giving C.J. Beathard, who I thought, really improved over the spring. There's still a gap between him and Rudock, but it's closed, I think, a little bit.
Quite a bit.
What's
Yeah.
the gap?
I think it's just decision-making more than anything else, that CJ's more of a Brett Favre mentality, and Jake is not going to take a lot of chances. And when you're, about Kirk Ferentz is he doesn't want a riverboat gambler back there unless it's Drew Tate.
Yeah.
That's about the only one I can think of during the Ferentz era that was more of a riverboat gambler. But Drew was kind of just drawing plays up in the dirt, and they didn't have a running game. So
That's right.
That's right.
he just, I think that was just unique circumstances, unique quarterback. But he opened the door saying that Beathard might get a series, a half, or something like that, which opens that door. Now, how much of that is true? How much of that will happen? And how much of that is we need to keep C.J. Beathard happy so he doesn't leave at the end of this year is still unknown.
C.J. Beathard, will he be a junior next year?
No.
No, he's sophomore.
He'll be a sophomore.
And Rudock will be a junior.
Rudock will be a junior.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think back to when, and all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank, the quarterback who played the entire season every snap,
James Vandenberg.
James Vandenberg. What do you think has caused Kirk to change his mind, if you will, or to alter his
At least
perception?
putting things on the table like that.
Yeah.
It may have been on the table then, but they just didn't use it. But I don't think they were as confident in Jake. I think part of that was circumstance of a new offense being installed with Greg Davis and just everybody. I mean, that whole season was just a struggle offensively, if you remember.
Yeah, it was.
That 4-8
4
year.
and 8.
They just never.
Yeah.
James Vandenberg was never on the same page with Greg Davis. The whole offense just never got going.
Vandenberg play against Ohio State.
Ohio State on the road.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
He was a sophomore, stepping in.
for Rick Stanzi.
Yeah. What's James Vandenberg doing these days?
I don't know. Probably hunting a
Yeah.
lot, I would guess.
Yeah.
I know he was probably going to go to grad school. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's given up on the NFL thing at all. I know he was in the Viking camp last year, but I have not seen him. There's some guys that are still chasing it that are around, and eventually you kind of just have to decide that's it, I'm done, and
Yeah.
you move.
Didn't James have a younger brother who?
Yeah, and
Played
I'm not
quarterback?
sure where he's at, but he didn't come to Iowa.
No. So, not a controversy, but a competition at quarterback.
It's a competition. I'll believe we'll get CJ out there for a series when I see
Yeah.
CJ out there for a series.
Yeah.
Well, he had to play a little bit last year when Rudock went down.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Rudock's
Yeah.
still wearing that knee brace on his left knee, so there's still, even though Jake says everything is fine, they're just making him wear it for precaution.
Sure.
It does take away some of your mobility and your quickness, because those things are heavy.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And they're just cumbersome.
Yeah.
So, what do you see? How do you see the running back position developing? And it's really two positions. It's fullback, it's tailback.
Yeah, I think at fullback you'll see Adam Cox and making Ploa play that position. And then at running back, it's going to be Wiseman's the first guy. I mean, he's got the trust of the coaches. They like what he does. He does.
We like what he does.
Yeah, but I think they're going to limit his carries. They're not going to give it. He's not going to have those 35 carry games.
God, I
I
hope
don't
not.
think.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're right, mid-season or late October, November, he's
It's like a
burning.
tire that
Yeah.
just loses tread and you can't get any traction. You kind of get stuck. And
Yeah.
I think that'll be important. But I think they've got more trust in Kanziri. You can put Bullock out there for moments.
Yeah.
Well, Sean Daniels is coming along, and he's a big, beastie guy. If he didn't really have a great spring, though. I don't. At least in
No.
the two spots that we saw him, he just could never get any open turf to kind of do his thing. Kanziri looked pretty good on Saturday. Had a nice touchdown run.
Is there any way, Tom, that they're going to use some of these athletes they have to change for the punting game, to receive punts and kickoffs? Who are they going to have back?
Cavante will be back there for punts. Kanziri will be back for kickoffs. And I asked Chris White about that, the special teams coach, and he said they're going to look at a lot of different options. They're going to maybe put two guys back there this year
Yeah.
on kickoffs.
For kickoffs, yeah.
Sweet Kanziri, and it might be a Jonathan Parker or an Akram Wadley or Andre Harris, somebody back there with a little bit more speed.
Well, how about the JC receiver?
Damon Powell will be in that mix too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How did he look at the spring games?
He pretty quiet, I thought, actually. He's doing a better job, but he was pretty quiet most of the time.
And he'll be a senior.
He'll be a senior this year, so you put him in that mix with they just got a lot of guys at wide receiver where
Great.
2 years ago
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot there. We haven't even talked about Cavante and Tavon Smith, who are the top two guys. Matt Vandenberg, who's done
Yeah.
really well as kind of a possession receiver.
He sure did well last year.
Played as a true freshman,
Yeah, they've
which
got,
is interesting. He played and they redshirted, 4 other freshman receivers? didn't they?
Yeah, they redshirted the three other guys.
3 other guys?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is interesting, but maybe he was the most ready and grasped the
Yeah.
offense a little bit better. But playing time comes down to two things in practice: catching passes and blocking.
Yep.
If you do those two things, you're going to have a shot at playing.
Well, separation has been a big problem for
Yeah.
Iowa receivers.
That's where a guy like Willie's can
Yeah.
really, I think, make a difference. Is he seems to know how to get separation.
I'm excited to see him. By the way, we're visiting with Tom Kakert with HawkeyeReport.com, the #1 website for any and all Hawkeye information. HawkeyeReport.com. The defensive line looks to be the strength of the Hawkeyes this coming season.
Yeah, I would say so, and that's kind of wild considering last year they were probably the biggest question mark
Yeah.
on the team. It's come a long way in a year where guys just developed, and you look back at the history under Kirk Ferentz, and when they've had a good defensive line, his teams have been very good. When they have not been real good on the defensive line, his teams have not been very good. Basically, it comes down to, can they stop the run? And Carl Davis emerged last year, and he's a
Yeah.
first-team All Big Ten tackle, I think. He's got an NFL future just with his size and athletic ability.
He's going to be a junior, right? Or
Yeah, he'll be senior.
Senior, oh, boy.
So you've got him and Louis Trinket-Passat.
The law firm?
The law firm, yeah. That defensive tackle position is as deep as maybe I've ever seen it at Iowa. When you
Wow.
look at, they've got those two starting, they've got Darian Cooper, who started, who's a powerhouse in the middle. You've got Jaleel Johnson and Faith Kaketi, who are both 4-star kids, big kids. Jaleel had a really good spring, I thought, in the times that we saw him. They've got a young kid, Nate Budgeta, who's a redshirt freshman, who's just a firehouse. I mean, he's
How do you spell his name?
Bazata,
Just like it sounds.
just like it sounds. Sort of like Josh Jeva.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no. And where is he from?
He is from Nebraska.
Budgeta.
Budgeta.
I like that.
Oh,
So defensive line, a real strength and
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, they just don't have a kind of a true defensive end. Mike Hardy and Drew Ott are coming along, but they're more tackle-ish than they are endish. They're not Adrian Claiborne
Yeah.
or Broderick Binns kind of players. They're just more, they're not gonna be explosive and they're not Matt Roth kind of guys who are super explosive off the edge. They're just not those guys. So, but they're tough, hard-nosed kids. One of the kids that you should mention though that maybe has a little bit of explosion off the edge, Nate Meyer, who's a kid to really watch. I think he's going into his true junior year.
Didn't he come on a little strong last year at the
Yeah.
end of the season?
Yeah, he was more of a specialty kind of guy, third down, pass rush guy. When they went to that Raider package, he was in there rushing off the edge. And Phil Parker said he's making a push to get snaps on first and second down too. Now the knock on him is he's 6'2", so he's got an appropriate height, but he's 246 pounds. So he came in to Iowa as a running back. First couple practices, he was at running back.
And where is he from?
He's from, God, what town is it? Small town, Iowa.
It's not Springville, is it?
No, but it's like that.
Was it 8-man football?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 8-man. So,
Interesting.
so he may have played Springville.
If they were
What's
8-man, they
happening?
probably did.
What's happening at the center position?
Offensive center, Austin Blythe.
Yep.
Will he play there?
Oh, yeah.
Will they move him?
The Williamsburg boy. No.
okay.
He's going to be their
Okay.
center this year and
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Their backup center is probably Eric Simmons, I would guess, if something happened to Blythe where he had to go out. I think he'd probably move into the center spot.
Well, we talked about the strength in the defensive line. One of the big question marks next season is going to be linebacker.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the loss of three-year starters. In fact, one of them a 4-year starter. James Morris was our guest on our last show.
Oh, wow.
And besides being a great kid,
How'd
fine
you
young
twist
man.
his arm to come in here?
Well, we know people.
The pay was.
That was good.
His dad had a little something to do with it.
yeah, that's right.
But it's funny, on paper.
By the way, I should mention James Morris got a Medal of Honor thing this past week, an academic thing from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That is worth $16,000 to go towards getting a graduate degree.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, we talked about a lot. He's got more than one scholarship for his. I think it totals close to $30,000 in post-grad scholarship money. The kid's smart, and besides
What's he
that, he's
going
a
to
real
do in
gentleman.
grad school? Did he make up his mind?
Hopefully he doesn't have to do
Yeah.
anything for a while.
Yeah. He's going to wait and see what happens
Yeah.
on draft day here in a week. And,
Sure.
He's quite a guy.
Yeah, I think he'll have an opportunity. I haven't looked at the NFL draft thing too closely to see where he's going. I would expect probably mid to late round to free agent,
Right.
somewhere in that, fourth round to. It's only a 7-round draft, so it's fourth to free agent, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on paper, the Iowa linebacking core looks to be young, inexperienced, and maybe a weak spot for the team. But what we also know is they've got some kids there who have already begun contributing last season. Talk a little bit about linebacking.
Yeah, they've got some guys that have some really true experience. I mean, Travis Perry has played. Quentin Alston has played. They've been on defense. They've been on special teams. They've got tons of experience.
Reggie Spearman.
And then Reggie Spearman got in there a little bit last year. He's the youngest. He's the pup of the bunch. He's still 17 years old, by the way.
And he's going to be a sophomore.
He won't turn 18, I think, until September sometime.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, he would, rightfully in a lot of cases be a junior in high school.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
And he has grown. You've seen him up close.
Yeah,
Is he maturing physically?
Yeah, he's maturing physically, so he looks the part, and he's pretty good. Quentin Alston's really impressive. I
Yeah.
think you guys are going to like him this year, just a natural leader. In a lot of years, he would have been probably a starter on many Iowa teams.
Yep.
He's that good, and he's a very vocal leader in the locker room. I really like him, and I think they're going to be fine. You know what I'm most impressed with at linebackers, though, aside from the kids that are playing, Jim Reed and LeVar Woods are doing a tremendous job with that group. Jim Reed really impresses me. I know we kind of all know about LeVar, but Jim Reed can coach football.
And is this going to be Jim Reed's second year with the Hawkeyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no worries about them because I know how Jim Reed coaches guys up. So
Good.
So how's the depth at linebacker? They have any surprises?
you know, it's a little bit of a thin position, I think, a little inexperienced guy that Travis Perry didn't practice or didn't go through the game thing on Saturday, just minor dinged up. Why play him? Doesn't mean anything, kind of injury. But Josie Jewell stepped in there, redshirt freshman, looked terrific.
Where's he from?
He's another small town Iowa kid.
Josie Jewell.
Decorah, yeah, you're right, Decorah. It's
Yeah.
Decorah.
Good
You're right.
recall.
You're right.
And he must be good.
Yeah, he's dynamite, and really liked him. Liked what I saw from John Kenny, another of the redshirt crew, a linebacker from the Indianapolis area, and he was really good, I thought. So they've got some young guys.
Is Kenny from Carmel?
I think it's Carmel, yeah.
I think it is too. So then defensive back. The defensive backs have been
Good news is you've got two guys back. You've got John Loudermilk back at safety, and you've got Desmond King, the freshman sensation from last year,
Boy,
back
was he ever.
at corner. That kid
Yeah.
plays with, as the kids would call it, a swagger. He just knows he likes to compete, and had a nice interception on
He had
Saturday.
a great year.
He really did.
And when he went out, if he got nicked up or if they took him out for whatever reason, I would see a difference.
Yeah, he just knows he's not the fastest guy. He's probably not a guy that's going to jump higher than a lot of guys, win 40-yard dashes, but he just knows how to play. He just anticipates.
Smart.
He's got good hips, knows how to move. He's really good. So they've got an opening at corner, and it's a three-man battle between Sean Draper, Reese Fleming, and Greg Mabin's kind of moved into there, and he came in as a wide receiver. Got a little
Right.
more height. He's about 6'1", but Phil Parker kind of hinted he's put his name into the competition as well.
Good.
And then at safety, they've moved Jordan Lomax from corner. He was the guy that, and I mentioned this to the young kids, and they don't know what this means, but I said he got kind of Wally pipped at cornerback last year, and nobody knows what that means anymore.
No,
Some of us do, though, right, Earl?
just the
You know
old
Wally
timers.
Pipp is?
Who?
Wally Pipp,
The guy that Lou Gehrig
Lou Gehrig
replaced.
replaced.
Oh,
Now, what about Nico Law? Whatever happened to him?
He's still in the mix, but he would probably be their third safety right now. He's playing a little bit. They ran a little kind of hybrid package on Saturday where they took out two of the defensive linemen and brought in Nico and one of the other corners. At that point, it was Draper because Fleming was already on the field, and ran kind of a hybrid thing and had Nico rushing off the edge,
Wow,
kind of lining up as like a linebacker almost.
that's different for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, so it's a little different, a little variation off that Raider package.
Well, the final question, and maybe one of the bigger question marks, is the kicking game.
Yeah.
Punter and kicker. place
Maybe
kicker.
the biggest concern going into the season,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because we know how Kirk Ferentz's teams are, and they play a lot of close games. Special teams matters.
Yep.
It's a big factor in any game. Punting with field position. For last year, Iowa kicked a lot of field goals because they had some drives that bogged down. The red zone was not that efficient in terms of scoring touchdowns,
Yeah.
and they've worked a lot on the red zone this spring. So
We've had that issue for several years in a row, the Reds.
yeah, and they had some opportunities last year where they just got bogged down and had to settle for field goals. So you got to have somebody that can convert them. They've got at punter, watching both practices and watching both guys kick. it's a coin flip between Connor Cornbrath and Dylan Kidd, and frankly, neither of them really kind of knocked it out of the park. I mean, they were okay, but it wasn't like, wow, that guy's really way better. They both kicked good ones, they both kicked bad ones. I mean, it just,
What about coming in?
they don't have any other punters coming in.
They don't.
Place kicker, it's Marshall Kane, the kid from Solon, who's kind of bided his time. Big leg. You guys probably saw him kick in high
Yep.
school. Huge leg. He can kick it a long way. The concern I have with him when he kicks is it's kind of low sometimes. And you know, if you've got a 6'6" defensive lineman that gets a little pressure in there, he's going to knock the ball down. So that's something he has to work on. They had another guy in camp this spring, Alden Hoffer, who's a JUCO kid. He was okay. I mean, he did not have Kane had the better day on Saturday. Hoffer missed a couple of them. They've got Mick Ellis, place kicker, coming in this fall from Texas. So
Mick Ellis.
So they've scholarshiped him. And there's a kid from Mason City, and his name is escaping me, who's walking on, who kicked a 57-yarder last year from Mason
God.
City. So
Well, we need to remember that Mike Meyer was a walk-on.
yes, he was, and
Good
he
point.
won the
For
job
4
right
years.
away.
Yeah.
Good point.
Won the job job right away. So it is conceivable. I think that kicker position. If you had to put odds on things right now, I'd probably say it's 60-70% that it would be Marshall Kane.
You mentioned a kid from Texas. But, how is recruiting working out?
Yep.
We want to dive into that now.
Let's
huh?
dive
Yeah,
into
let's do
recruiting.
Yeah. I know
bet.
a little bit about recruiting.
You do? Well, I've got.
Back in the day, right?
Back in the day.
You know, the incoming class, there's probably a handful of guys that I think can play. But then again, I didn't see Desmond King coming as much as some people, and you thought maybe some other guys might emerge. But obviously Mick Ellis is a guy who's going to get a shot at playing probably, if you look at it, the most likely, just because there's an opening there. Off of these guys, I think defensively would be the opening. Probably in the secondary would be the opportunity. And Phil Parker seems to always pick out one or two guys in the freshman class that he ends up playing. Out of that group, Jalen Embry, a kid from Detroit, kind of
Yeah.
the same pedigree as King. I wouldn't say they're the same player, but same pedigree, same hometown.
These are all high school seniors
Yeah,
currently
that are coming in.
who
Yeah.
have signed and will be here in August.
Josh Jackson, he might even play offense. They hadn't made the
What position?
He's a defensive back or a wide receiver. He's just a guy that makes plays. Marcel Jolly, another defensive back, probably a safety. And then another name I'd throw out there, Jameer Outsey, who's a linebacker, defensive end. I think he'll end up putting his hand on the ground and
Yeah.
adding some weight, but he's a big outside linebacker right now. They're just looking for, rush ends. And one of the kids that they have not yet, quote unquote, signed, who's supposed to be coming, is Tory Hendrick, who's a defensive end out of New York. He had to finish up some academic stuff, so he's going to make his official visit on June 3rd, and then I think they'll take care of his paperwork at that point in time.
So he's not really looking anywhere else then?
No, there was some talk about K-State a little bit,
Yeah.
but it seems like everything. It's still up in the air, though. He has to get work done, and so we'll see. I'll believe it when he's on campus. I think he still might end up redshirting. He played a year at JUCO, but he's got a year where he could redshirt if
Yeah.
needed.
Learn the system, learn the college life.
Yeah, kind of adjust academically might be a good thing for him.
We're visiting with Tom Kakert with HawkeyeReport.com, the #1 Hawkeye website. Any and all information you want to know about current Hawkeyes, the recruiting list, it's there. HawkeyeReport.com. So we're talking about recruiting with Tom Kakert. This is an area of expertise for you. You talk to recruits.
Earl's the expert.
Well,
He's recruited guys. I have not.
That's right.
good point.
I don't recruit.
Yeah. But you do
I just
go to see
inform.
them.
Yeah, I
You
do.
visit with them.
In fact, this weekend, fans are interested in this, are interested in recruiting. This weekend, Rivals is having the Rivals Camp Series in Chicago at Maine South High School. It's out by O'Hare Airport. And there'll be a lot of, I think we've got over 200 kids coming. So, and there's a bunch of kids that are on Iowa's radar. And in fact, there's a kid that's committed to Iowa that's going to be there. His name is Drew Cook. You guys might know him.
Heard of him.
Might be familiar with Drew Cook. So Drew's going to be there to throw at the camp and compete, which is great. I love having him there. So
He's a big kid.
yeah.
He's a big kid.
Yeah, so they've got 8 commitments now, and they seem to be collecting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
What do they have, 4?
Well, there's
3 and 1 who
technically-
was a
I don't
quarterback.
think Drew will play quarterback.
Oh, I don't
He's
know.
Drew's intention is to come in and play quarterback.
Yep.
But I would say this, if after a year you kind of figure it out and say, you know what, it's not going to work, he'll play at another position.
We know he can catch the ball
That's
because
what I mean. I don't.
Father Marv has implemented the play where Drew hands off and then goes deep. And how many touchdowns did Drew score last year receiving?
Oh,
2?
boy.
At least 2.
2 or 3.
Yeah. And they were nice catches too because the
Well,
throws weren't top notch.
let's be clear on this. That's not Marv. That's Ed Hinkle doing all that work. Come
You got a
on.
point.
Yeah,
You got a point.
Good point.
That,
Yeah.
Hinkle has
what
been
you
a
say
big-
makes sense.
Well, then they have the quarterback from Des Moines.
Yeah, Ryan Boyle.
Then they have the best
He's
strength
from- he's
coach
really
there
from
is in
Newton.
the state of Iowa.
Really? Okay.
I think that something happened there.
Okay.
With who? Drew Cook?
No,
And with
Oh.
Boyle moved.
Oh, with Boyle.
He moved to Des Moines. Got recruited, maybe.
yes. That's what, maybe.
It happens in Des Moines.
He's a
I'm
really
told.
good athlete, good player. So he'll be a kid to really watch
I
this
saw
year.
him play. I saw him play as a junior.
They may, you had both those guys, Cook and Boyle, both won state titles
Yeah.
last year, and they
Both teams
may-
are undefeated too.
and
aren't
they may very well do that again. It would be a shock if they don't actually.
Yeah.
Both win. They got also from Jack Benevienti, who's a quarterback out of the Chicago area. Big kid. He's starting to fill out. I actually got to see him last year at our Rivals Camp Series in Chicago. He's put on some weight. He's filled out. He's up to over 200 pounds. He's 6'6", so he needs to put on some weight. Last year when I saw him, I think he was probably about 6'6", 185, and he was
Wow.
pretty really,
Well, that sounds about like Drew Cook. He's 6'5". What is he? About 200?
Drew's about 225.
He is.
Yeah.
He has a
Oh, yeah.
lot of weight on.
Oh.
Yeah,
This
that's what
kid out of
Marv
Chicago-
told me. He's 225.
Wow.
This kid out of Chicago, didn't he kind of open things back up again when these other 2 kids announced?
He's going to go to some other camps, but I mean, he's been to Iowa City 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I mean, and he's really tight with all the recruits. I think if he's going down to a camp in Texas, if Texas offered him, yeah, he'd probably open his eyes a little bit and go, oh, okay,
Yeah,
maybe I better, maybe I might look at things differently. But it depends on who Texas
Sure.
is recruiting too. The other quarterback who's not going to play quarterback is Jack Hockaday. He's another Illinois kid. He isn't even going to entertain the quarterback thing. So
He's an athlete.
he's going to play linebacker.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you got Jake Newburgh, who's just really well put together kid, strong, powerful kid. Will probably play defensive line, could play offensive line, but I think he's going to end up playing D line. And the most recent commit, Brady Reef, you might remember his
Yeah,
brother,
sure.
do you?
Yeah.
Know his brother, Riley.
I met his mother and father.
Did you? Nice people.
Yeah, I thought
Great.
that was really special to get him to commit.
He's not the same size as his brother. He's a little small. He's about 6'2", but so he may end up. Remember, Riley came in as a defensive line recruit. and switched over to the offensive line fairly quickly. And I'm sure every day he wakes up, he's very happy that he made that switch. When he looks at his,
NFL.
logs on it and looks at his bank account.
Yeah.
And then the last two are the twins, Levi and Landon Paulson from up in northwest Iowa. And they are big dudes.
Have you seen them in person?
Yeah, they were there Saturday. They're, 6'5", 265, 270 natural weight.
And where do they go?
It's up by Woodbury, Iowa, up Woodbury County, up
Yeah.
the northwest corner.
North of Sioux City?
Yeah.
Way
So
north, yeah.
Closer to
They're
Hayward.
they're country boys, in truest sense.
One of them wrestle.
They both wrestled the same weight at their high school. So they would alternate, and then their wrestling team was obviously pretty good, and so one of them wrestled the team state meet, and the other one wrestled the individual state meet. They
I'll
just
be
kind of
darned.
trade off. They're really good kids, and
Yeah.
just interesting kids. They're like in the band and stuff. I mean, just fun guys. But I would say a few years down the road, at 6'5", and they're 265, and they've hit the weight room, but they haven't hit the weight room yet. I mean,
Yeah.
wait till you see these guys. There's your. Now you just have to figure out which one's on the left tackle and which one's the right tackle.
Wouldn't that be neat to have twins starting
Oh,
with
yeah.
line there?
Both of them about 6'5", 295.
That would be nice.
So that's 8 guys that they've gotten so far, and it's going to be unless there's a rash of guys leaving. I mean, they're still two over the scholarship limit going into the summer, so 2 guys have to leave to get down to 85 this fall.
And we know that always happens.
And there'll always be, quietly sometime in July, somebody is going to pursue opportunities elsewhere, or it may happen at the end of semester where they have that discussion with them. Hey, you might want to look
Yeah.
Who
around.
do you think is going to win the Big Ten?
Overall,
Yeah.
Ohio State is the
Yeah.
clear favorite. I don't think there's any question about that.
That's right.
Now, if you look at the Western Division, who's going to play Ohio State in Indianapolis in the first Saturday in December, Iowa is very much in that mix.
That's right.
Very much.
I
Wisconsin
think so too.
Wisconsin has gotten a lot of buzz, and a lot of people are on their bandwagon. They have a very easy schedule other than that first game when they play LSU, and kind of one of those made-for-TV games. But other than that, their conference schedule is much like Iowa, where they're avoiding the Michigan State,
Ohio
Penn
State.
State, Ohio State. I mean,
Wisconsin doesn't play Ohio State, huh?
I don't think so.
Now, how does Ohio State, we can understand how they get 4-night games, and we can understand Michigan and Wisconsin.
Money.
Getting 3-night, or Penn State getting 3-night.
Wisconsin
And
doesn't
then
have
you
any.
have Nebraska
Yeah,
having 4 night games.
they're
Name
still a draw.
recognition. Yep.
They're the only one from our
Well, part
Western
of
Division that
Well,
really.
you know what part of it is, though, is part of it is the fact that if Iowa was playing Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State, I'll guarantee you one of those games would have been a night game.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, probably right, yeah.
It's a function this year of the schedule
Yeah.
more than
I'm glad
anything
we have
else.
the schedule, I'm glad we don't have it.
And there's still a chance that the Iowa-Wisconsin game in November 22nd, since the Big Ten has opened up the evenings in November now,
Yeah.
there's a chance.
That's
There's a
true.
chance, but I
don't want any night games in November.
Not November, that'd be
I don't want
all
any
right.
night games at Kinnick myself. I don't like it. I don't like waiting all day. I don't like
Oh,
how
I don't
drunk
either.
people
I'm
get.
like you. I'm glad we don't have
I don't like it either.
Well, it's just
I would
the-
just
I
as
don't
soon have the
necessarily
11
like it.
a.m. game.
It's
I
exposure.
would too.
It's a national exposure.
Or bring back
That's right.
those 1 o'clock
Well,
starts,
anyhow,
right,
I was gonna
Bert?
say that
everything's
1 o'clock.
exposed. You know, I'd say the afternoon game's more exposure than the night games.
Really?
I would.
That's not true, though.
And you
Well,
have
fans-
to remember, if they're
fans
out
love it.
east, that starts at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, fans love the night games, but
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the young fans, because they can tailgate all day and watch other football games and tailgate
Yeah.
all day
That's
and then
enough
tailgate all
to
day.
Yeah.
A flunk out of school.
Pass out at halftime.
So, the last question I have for Tom is, who is going to be the new coach and / recruiting coordinator for the Hawkeye football team? That's two positions, basically, two different positions.
Well, yeah, it's a full-time position. Eric Johnson was making $200,000 a year. Now, I don't think the person coming in, unless it's somebody with a lot of experience, is going to get that, but it's a possibility. Because Eric was, at one point tight ends coach, then he was helping with the linebacker, assistant to the assistant coach at linebacker. He was assistant to Reese Morgan on defensive line, but he
I
handled.
liked him.
Yeah, Eric is a great guy.
He's a
Yeah.
great.
He'd always stop
great-
and talk to you at church, that's for sure.
Yep.
He's a terrific guy, terrific family.
Yep.
Has two daughters, twins, that are the same age as my son. So we would always chat about our kids and what we were going through at that age.
Why did he leave? And
Kirk,
Kirk seemed surprised by it.
I was surprised by the timing. I was not surprised by the move.
Well,
Per
I
se,
think
at
the
least
job
leaving,
alone.
at least leaving Iowa. I wasn't surprised.
Hamburgers, you don't make that much money.
At least leaving Iowa, I was.
Culver's franchise? Oh,
I
yeah,
was
dude.
surprised
You make money.
that he got out of the business. I
Yeah.
thought maybe he'd go to some other school. I know Bielema's tried to, attract him to a job before.
Yeah.
So I think he just kind of got burned out on coaching.
Well, it's easy to do with all the travel,
And he's
never
going
home.
to Tennessee, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, he
Didn't he-
did go to Vanderbilt.
that's right.
He knows the area, so
Is
he's.
his wife from Tennessee?
I don't know where Patsy's from. She may be from there.
She's a good tennis player.
Is she?
Marvelous.
So who do you think will replace Coach Johnson?
People have thrown DJ Hernandez's name out there. I don't think that will happen.
What about A.J. Blazek?
I would love if AJ came back, Junior, as I would call him. I would love to have him back, and I hope that's the guy they get. That's the guy they should get.
I know the coach flew to California.
For what?
I don't know. For what?
Well, A.J.'s quite a personality.
Yeah, he would be good on the recruiting trail.
And he helped coach here for a while as a graduate assistant, correct?
Yep, he was grad assist, played for the Hawkeyes. I mean, he knows the
Yeah,
program.
where is he at?
He's at Western Illinois right now as the offensive line coach.
Okay.
He's told me before that he walked back to Iowa City on shard glass to get here. I mean, it's a no-brainer if they were
Yeah.
to offer. And he's interviewed with Kirk before, the offensive line coach, when they hired Brian.
If you've ever been in Macomb, Illinois, you can understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Been there.
So, there's Kelvin Bell, who's come back as kind of a special teams guy and graduate assistant. I think he'd be in the mix. I think Kirk is going to restructure this thing a little bit, to be honest.
You think he's going to take his time? Can he afford to?
I think he probably will because he was surprised. I think he'd usually have something. But I know they've been talking internally about trying to. If you look around college football now, it's not like administrative assistants; it's player personnel directors, basically.
Yeah.
Which is a fancy name for a guy who follows recruiting or helps with recruiting as player personnel directors. And I think that's the direction they're going to head. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back, somebody like a Tyler Barnes who went to Vanderbilt, was Kirk's son-in-law.
Oh, that's
And brought him back in kind of that role, because that was kind of the role he was filling at Iowa. They've got a young guy too, Max Allen, who I just did a story on, who's been signing out these great mailers, puzzles,
I read that.
and it's comic book things. Earl, you'd never believe the things they're sending in the mail these days.
Earl never had to do that when his
Mock-up
Recruiting was
ESPN
gone.
magazines with this, this guy, future Hawkeye, winning the Heisman kind of thing, and they do all kinds of these. It's really creative. It's really cool. And Max Allen's a guy who's been behind all that in terms of sending out those mailings. So that may be an option. We'll see.
Well, it looks like and sounds like we'll have to wait to find out who Kirk Ferentz will add to his coaching staff.
Yeah, but it's a full-time, that's a coach who can go on the road position.
Yeah,
So,
Good job for a single guy.
absolutely.
yeah,
That's right.
hit the road.
So,
You liked going on the road with those guys, didn't you?
I enjoyed it,
Good steak dinners.
yes.
Louise
I
was
went out
glad to
east
send
with
him
them.
on the road.
With,
Okay.
with Hayden and Kirk and Barry.
Barry Alvarez.
Yeah. Barry'd be fun.
Oh, that was more, that was a picnic. I'll tell you.
How do you think Hayden would respond these days to the?
And he was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he was a master recruiter.
Oh, he was a great recruiter.
He closed the deal often with the moms.
Oh, yes.
Bernie
Yeah.
did a great job on the East Coast, didn't he?
Bernie Wyatt.
Bernie
Bernie
Wyatt.
Wyatt. Yeah, he,
Yeah.
Kurt said on that program the other night, it's the best recruiter there is.
Who?
well, he
Bernie
said.
Wyatt.
Bernie?
He said Bernie Wyatt was a good recruiter. I don't think he said a great recruiter.
Well.
I was listening.
How do you think Hayden would respond to the unionization of his football
Oh,
players?
boy.
Oh,
Not well.
Yeah.
no. I would think that another guy that would really dislike it would be
Bump?
Bump.
Yeah.
I don't like
It's
what-
not going to pass.
No, Hayden would
No.
throw those union negotiators right off that high porch. Yeah.
Why don't you think unionization will pass?
I just don't think the players know enough about it. I don't think. I think they know what they've got, and it's not bad. So, why risk something that could be worse? I mean, there's some downside to the
Yes,
union side
definitely.
of it that the law of unintended consequences could come into play, and I think, but I'll say this: I think the NCAA is moving in the right direction with now their unlimited food. I mean, some of the food stuff where you could give guys bagels, but you couldn't give them cream cheese
Yeah.
because it was considered an extra benefit. It just silly stuff like
Dick,
that.
you remember this? What Morris kid said? He went to someplace just lately.
One of the award banquets.
Okay, and he kept talking about the food,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they were all, and the football players were all that were there were really upset.
He went, that was at the NFL Combine,
Yes,
and they didn't have time to eat, he said.
Yeah.
They kept
Yeah,
them so
that's
busy that they didn't eat, and a lot of kids would get there to the dining hall
and be closed.
just before closing time, and it was already closed.
Yes.
And there were no options. They were trapped in the
And,
hotel.
and it was all about food.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, technically, if you had a daughter dating a football player, and after a game, you couldn't take him out and buy him dinner.
No,
No.
it's
How dumb is that? That's
It-
crazy.
it's silly, but
So the NCAA is going to make some changes.
yeah,
Vote on these in August, right?
I
As
thi-
far as some of these.
well, the food thing passed.
Oh, it
the
did
food
pass.
thing,
Right.
that's in
All right.
Yeah, it's passed. I mean, a lot of these things have passed already, and they're slowly making progress. But it's you got to get rid of
they're
common
gonna do
sense.
this union thing?
The Northwestern players.
The players did
Yep.
themselves.
Yeah.
Because their situation is a little unique because they're a private institution. So that kind of makes it unique where you could technically try to do the same thing at Iowa, but you would have to go through a public process rather than the private union process. It's everything I've heard is it's not going to pass. So it's
Yeah.
but I go back and forth on some of the issues because
Well,
I would understand from a young guy's perspective, like, we're doing a podcast tonight with Devin Marble, and all these kids are wearing number 4 jerseys all over the place and buying, his jersey.
Right.
Because he wears it, and then but what's he get out of that?
A
Right.
college education,
Yeah.
and a lot of other benefits.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so does the guy at the end of the bench. He gets that full ride, but they're not making any additional funds off that bench warmer. They're making big money off the star
Well,
player.
When they start paying athletes in college, I stop buying tickets.
Well, it's the pain thing. I always say this. Then you open Pandora's box.
You
the
sure
slip-
Big
do.
time.
The slippery slope begins.
About
But let's
Title
be
19,
honest.
then
But
you get- yeah.
let's be honest. There are schools out there that where those extra benefits are already being
That's right.
dished out. I
Here's
mean,
the big thing.
SEC.
and that's the difference between
Schools
how
are really
thing-
doing it, and they're getting away with it.
Yeah, and because the NCAA enforcement is lax at best, and they don't really want to care. And I mean, the cheating
Well, how many people would
goes
vote
on
this?
everywhere.
How many what?
It's
Who
all
gets to
the.
vote on this?
Oh.
I think it's all
Not
the.
players that played in the past.
Oh, for
Current.
the union? Yeah, it was the current Northwestern players.
Okay, how many is that?
There were 75 players, I believe, that voted.
Now, they voted already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why is it taking until the middle of June or the 1st of July to come out with something?
Because it's been appealed to the National Labor Relations
Oh,
Board
okay.
instead of the regional board, so they're not gonna release the actual vote
Okay.
until the national board
Yep.
rules on it.
I thought we'd find
Yeah.
out the next day.
4 minutes. We've got 4 minutes left in the show, and I want to ask Tom a little bit about the end of the Hawkeye basketball season.
It was disappointing.
Yeah.
And I'll say
Ugly.
this on the record, that it was not because of any internal strife caused by players chasing each other's girlfriends or guys getting in fights. None of that happened. None.
Was it burnout? Was it too long a season? Which really
I
started
think
back
it was-
in the summer.
I think it was a combination of things, almost like a perfect storm that happened. It was a long season. Then you had that. Remember before that beam fell in Indiana, they were clicking. They
Oh, yeah.
just drilled Michigan and went up to Penn State and won convincingly by double figures. So they're doing really well.
Yeah.
And then that beam falls, they miss time. I think some of that gets in your head where you got to play 3 games in a short period of time. And they played 2 of their worst games of the year, the Indiana game and the Minnesota game. They couldn't guard anybody. It seemed like that break and remember that break was also after that Michigan game. They didn't play for a full week, and then they played that Penn State game, and then they were off again for another week. So it was just, I think somewhere in that 2-week span, they just kind of lost their mojo. And just,
Boy, there was one game, I can't remember who they were playing. It was a home game, and they ran that court just beautifully. And I didn't see them run the court.
it's probably the Michigan game.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Oh, yeah, if that's the game,
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It was the
one
perfect
they won.
game.
That's the one.
But see, I thought they played perfect against Wisconsin.
Yeah, they just
We
didn't
got the lead
execute.
there with the minute.
They just didn't execute, and Wisconsin just executed
Yeah.
and executed and executed. And you lose 2 games to
Well, their
Wisconsin.
execution was free throws.
Yeah.
That hurts too, but
Yeah, they had 20-some more than we did.
we've been visiting with Tom Kakert, who is with the outstanding Hawkeye website, HawkeyeReport.com. That is a Rivals.com affiliate. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
And we invite
Affiliate.
him back right now.
What's that?
I said we invite him back.
Oh, yeah. Tom Kakert has been a friend of Sports Opinion for a long time. We value his input, his knowledge on recruiting especially, but any and all things Hawkeye. We hope you do too. Any closing thoughts, Tom, on all things Hawkeye?
They've got a nice recruiting class for basketball too, with Dom Mule,
Oh, yeah.
Brady Ellingson, a shooting guard, Trey Dickerson, point guard, who's really going to help him. I think he's the big impact guy out of that class. And then they've got a transfer coming in this weekend, Cole Huff from
Yeah.
University of Nevada, who averaged about 15 points a
Now,
game
he'll have to
last year.
sit out.
He'd have to sit for a year.
Are there any kids like?
There's really nothing out there right now.
What about the high school seniors who've committed to Missouri and to
Some of those
to
guys have to
Tennessee?
open up, and there may be some involvement. They did get a nice walk-on pickup this week
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Nicholas Bear.
Doug Baird, former Channel 2 sports director's
Yeah.
son.
Yep. So he is going to be walking on a nice player who will need a little time to
Where did he go
develop.
to school at?
Bettendorf.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Bettendorf.
Yeah.
I was really
Ooh,
shocked.
nice.
I was shocked he did not get some D1 attention.
He had a great second half against West High School.
And we're going to have another
Semi-final.
conversation about this next time because we're out of time on Sports Opinion. You can watch us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18 and again every Sunday night at 6 p.m. You can go to my Facebook page or you can go to PATV.tv and watch this show and other older shows anytime you like. On behalf of Bob Boyd, Bud Supel, Earl Murphy, and myself, Dirk Keller, we're thanking Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com for being here once again. Thanks for watching, and remember this, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks!
Amen.
When does it